people of color or just women enduring these domestic violences, but they're putting them in neighborhoods that are not impacted. So we have to go to these neighborhoods. It may not be comfortable going to Sunnyvale. It may not be comfortable being in Fremont. It may not be comfortable being in these areas, but these are some of the women that are pregnant, and they have to worry if they're going to either live and die in the hospital or live and die in these streets. And no one's coming to save them. So I really want to just emphasize that it is important that we are reaching out to our communities, educating them about the policyholders, letting them know who's about to come into the office and what's about to happen. Some people don't even know. And so it's the lack of resources that we have, which is why some of our families are being impacted. We can't reach everybody, but I can guarantee you at least 3 out of the 5 is going to actually think about what was said. You know, like the lack of education, the lack of resources, the systemic racism that still stands till today. We have to really educate our communities. We have to be in these communities. And I'm just going to circle back around. We have to build our villages. We a village right here. Hey, y'all. So, you know, now we can go into our communities and work with our people and educate them and let them know, do you know what's about to happen? What do you know about the policyholders? Do you know how this impacts your reproductive rights? Do you know how this impacts your domestic violence case? You know how many moms have to call 911 and 911 says you're on the top of the priority list and never show up? Because of the neighborhood that they're in. So how do we find safety? We, our village, we make them feel safe. So continue doing what you're doing, but we do need to push out more resources. We all need to come together. Organizations do not need to be against each other, but we need to work together and web out, how can we help her? Okay, I can't help her with this, but I know they got it. We need to work together, and when we work together, I feel like our community will want to kind of follow suit, because it starts in the head and then it trickles on down. That's all I got right now. Thank you.
That's similar to what I was going to say, like something immediate is like, even for those of us on the panel, it's just like, let's exchange information, contact information, and continue to build and cultivate this web of helpers. That's what we all are. And as long as capitalism still exists, we're gonna have to continue to rely on each other. Because while it exists, these other things, these other barriers, everything is just going to continue to get harder and just harder to access. And so, and I was thinking about, it's very individual, but okay, for today, like if there's anything, this is for all of us, like that we can, if there's one thing that we take away from all the panels today, and take it back to our communities, our organizations, our people, our groups, our places of worship, everything. Then do that, share that, and then thinking about like policymakers. We know that policy moves at the speed of molasses. it's about moving. Okay, what is happening right now? It's about moving the needle, but like, I just ask the policymakers keep their ears and heart to the ground, listening to survivors, to those of us working with survivors, to communities, and just hold on to their stories, and and to build on everything, because everything is interconnected.
I think if there is one thing I could ask of individuals and organizations, it's to do the really necessary work, particularly in this moment, to destigmatize abortion. Our friends at We Testify, which is an amazing storytelling organization, constantly remind us that everybody loves somebody who's had an abortion. And so I think so much of this work in this moment is removing the ick from what is very much regular healthcare for so many folks. It is not the full range of bodily autonomy and reproductive decision-making, but it is perhaps the most stigmatized. And so I think the work that we all have to do is to ensure that we're not adding shame to folks' decision-making processes, that we're really holding individuals' lived experiences, and that we're making space for all of the dichotomy that is in all of our choices or lack thereof in our decision-making processes. And then I think in terms of policy making, I think a lot about, for lack of a better analogy, robbing Peter to pay Paul. I think that you know, a lot of what we've talked about today is these issues are interconnected. And because we're talking about our livelihood, we're talking about our humanity, and we don't experience one part of our identity one day and the next part the next day. We're experiencing them all at the same time. And so I think there's a lot of work we can do with policymakers to really make that more clear. And I think that also looks like having different policymakers in a lot of places and spaces who can't really comprehend necessarily what a full range of lived experience can look like.
Well, thank you for that. I just want to add in closing to riff off of something each of you has said. I think that in terms of the most immediate steps with respect to our local organizations, something that was said, I believe, Juanita, we have to get past perceiving that we're in competition with each other. Now, Mary talked about capitalism. I would argue that we no longer live in even a capitalist society. At this moment, it is straight corporate and oligarchic greed. That is the system in which we are living in right now. And that system would have us all believe that there's only one, you know, there can only be one chip in the cookie, if you will. It is we as women and non-binary people have been made to believe and to buy into this false narrative of a scarcity mindset. We have to reframe the narrative that's running in the background in our own minds. Internalized sexism, internalized misogyny is real. And this is the moment for us as a collective to break out of. There is something that a woman said to me many years ago that has really stayed with me, and every opportunity I get a chance to share it with other women, I do. And that is, be careful in how you let others define who you are. The white, heteronormative, taller than average patriarchy would have us believe that women of color, are the minority. We are not. And in fact, women and women of color are the global majority. And that is the term that you should start using when you refer to us as women of color. We are the global majority. Understanding what that means in terms of our power is really important. With respect to our policymakers, Mary said that we should ask, strike that word from your vocabulary. We are no longer asking or begging, we are demanding. We are the ones that are in control by either showing up at the ballot box or not, okay? No longer asking, we are demanding. We are more than half of the population, and we are the global majority. And then finally, with respect to communities and what we as a community can do, is to do this more. We need to convene more. We have the privilege of having technology at our fingertips. We don't always have to be in person, it can be virtual, but I want to remind us of what happens when women convene, when women gather. It used to be outlawed for women to convene and gather. Why do you think that was? Because when we convene and when we gather, magic happens, change happens, and that is shift happens. And that is what we need to get back into the business of doing. Juanita talked a lot about sharing resources, educating. Use technology to convene more regularly, to educate and push out information about resources, and to help improve access. That's what we need to do as a community. This is our moment right now. We should not let this moment and this opportunity pass. We have the power and we need to seize it now. So thank you. And I think we did a pretty good job of staying on time. So we are going to